Leonard Maltin will attribute, as long as there are movies and movie fans, Fred Astaire will never be forgotten. Leonard?
John, there are movie stars and personalities, actors and dancers who are special to each one of us. But there was only one Fred Astaire. Nothing I could say could overstate his impact or his importance, and nothing I could say could begin to capture just how special, how joyous and wonderful he was to watch. The only way to do that is to show him on film.
I'm putting on my top hat, tying up my white tie, brushing off my tails.
Fred Astaire, in the song and the outfit for which he's best remembered. He was already a Broadway star when he made his mark on Hollywood, a veteran of nearly 30 years as a song and dance man. Born Frederick Austerlitz in Omaha, Nebraska, he was on stage at the age of 7, dancing with his sister Adele in vaudeville. They remained partners throughout adolescence and went on to become the toast of Broadway and London in a series of hit musical plays. In 1931, Adele left the act, and Fred was on his own. By now, the talkies had arrived, and it wasn't long before Hollywood called.
Feel like going through that opening number with Mr. Astaire?
All right.
Ready?
Yes, Matt.
Show Miss Barlow the routine on that opening number, will you?
I'd love to. Good evening, Mr.
All right,
Barlow.
get him in the paper. You know,
Astaire made an inauspicious debut with Joan Crawford in an MGM musical called Dancing Lady. He wasn't happy. The producers made him wear a toupee. He had no control over his work. That was soon to change. He was teamed with a young musical comedy performer named Ginger Rogers in Flying Down to Rio. They weren't the stars of the movie, but they certainly stopped the show.
We did gel somehow or other together. It's the thing that worked. And she simply could do anything that we were doing.
Fred and Ginger were a sensation. They went on to make 8 films in a row, destined to become classics. Their dances were a kind of poetry. Each one told a story.
He works hard for what he wants, and I think that's the secret to any success, is the willingness to work like a Trojan to get what you want.
For his solos, Astaire insisted that the camera show his full figure at all times. None of those Busby Berkeley overhead shots for him. This was magic. Astaire went on to work with every great female dancer in Hollywood, including Eleanor Powell. Ever the diplomat, he refused to name one dance maid as the best. He always said his favorite partner was Bing Crosby.
I sing for my supper, I dance for my lunch, I croon when the landlord comes around.
Astaire always felt the pressure of having to top himself, and he came up with some of the most imaginative numbers ever filmed. Of the grind, he threatened to retire in the late 1940s, but instead his career blossomed anew. He did some of his finest work in the 1950s in films like Funny Face. And then he conquered television with a series of chic one-hour specials that were fresh, contemporary, and alive, with a fresh new dance partner, Barry Chase. perfectionist, Astaire earned the respect and the love of his partners and colleagues.
A lot of dancers are gymnasts, or they might have rhythm, but they're not graceful. Fred had everything.
There is only one, and there will never be another.
He sought new challenges, making a series of great jazz records and tackling his first dramatic acting role in On the Beach.
You mean to tell me this whole damn war was an accident? No. It wasn't an accident. I didn't say that. It was carefully planned, down to the tiniest mechanical and emotional detail. But it was a mistake. It was a beaut.
Age did nothing to diminish his charm or sense of style. And while he protested that he was too old to dance anymore, he teamed with his dancing peer, Gene Kelly, for just the second time in their long careers, to host That's Entertainment Part 2 in 1976. The last decade was light on activity, but laden with tribute to a man who more and more was appreciated as an American original, an entertainer touched with genius.
I'll build a world of my own. No one knows better than I myself. I'm by myself alone.
Meeting Fred Astaire was one of the great thrills of my life, but I didn't really know what to say to him. How do you thank a man for bringing such joy into your own life, for lifting your spirits every time you saw him? Well, there is nothing to say except thank you, Mr. Astaire, and God bless you.
Well said, Leonard.
Thanks, Leonard.
With the news of Fred Astaire's death comes sad and very swift reaction. Ginger Rogers said he was the best partner anyone could ever have. Longtime pal Gene Kelly stated that Fred Astaire would always be immortal and an inspiration to all dancers who come after him. And Liza Minnelli, who knew Astaire since infancy, mourned his loss in New York.
For some reason, I've always been afraid of the day that Fred Astaire would die. And it happened, and I feel like I thought I would feel. Just awful. Just terrible. He was the greatest stylist and the most elegant American in films we've ever had.
He died in my arms. He knew I was with him, and he was happy. He was ready to go under the circumstances. Mr. Astaire was exactly as you would assume, as you would expect him to be. He was so good inside. He was the best person I've ever met. He had a wonderful sense of humor and very high morals, and I loved him so much, as his family does, and more than anything I respected him because he was such a good person.
Fred Astaire's unrivaled career was often the focus of a famous Hollywood story. A film executive who saw his first screen test in 1932 wrote that Astaire, quote, has no screen personality, can't sing, can't act, can dance a little. No one remembers the executive. No one will forget Fred Astaire.
Stop right, beside an upright, all right, now, baby, Felt as so many of us did.